Right now, in the heart of a brutal winter blast, Massachusetts residents are shelling out a staggering $44 per million BTUs for natural gas, while the average American pays just $6. That's over 7 times the cost for the identical energy source, determined purely by geography. This isn't a random glitch or bad luck. It's a full-blown crisis, magnified by one of the most ferocious winter storms ever to hammer the United States. Let's dive straight in. Winter Storm Fern has carved its name into the record books as one of America's all-time monster tempests. This was a colossal 2,000-mile system roaring from the deserts of New Mexico to the rocky shores of Maine. It slammed 180 million people, battering 37 states with relentless force. 24 states declared emergencies. At least 26 lives have been lost so far. Power outages plunged over 1 million homes and businesses into darkness. Air travel collapsed with more than 15,000 flights grounded in a chaotic weekend meltdown. Boston took a direct hit. The city was smothered under 16.7 inches of snow in a single day, ranking as the 9th heaviest snowfall in its long history. Wind chills cratered to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit, cold not seen in nearly 8 decades. Roads became ice rinks. Visibility vanished. Even heavy plows struggled to cut through the whiteout. This destruction was driven by a rogue polar vortex. A swirling fortress of Arctic air that usually stays locked near the North Pole shattered its boundaries and surged south like an invading army. The result was sudden, savage temperature collapses that cripple power grids and push energy demand to the breaking point. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey didn't sugarcoat the situation. This was the fiercest storm the state has faced in years. Residents were urged to hunker down and avoid travel entirely. Transportation crews fought around the clock, but officials conceded the obvious. The storm's intensity overwhelmed their efforts. Highways devolved into hazard zones as snow piled higher and winds screamed louder by the hour. Experts are drawing chilling parallels to Winter Storm Uri in 2021, the disaster that killed more than 200 people in Texas and left its power grid shattered for days. Back then, extreme cold exposed deadly weaknesses in energy infrastructure. Now, Fern is repeating that lesson with a harsh spotlight on New England's unique vulnerabilities. When temperatures plunge this low, natural gas becomes the lifeline. Homes crank furnaces nonstop. Utilities push generation to the limit. Factories burn fuel just to stay online. Across most of the United States, this surge is manageable. In Massachusetts and the broader New England region, it becomes a nightmare. The Achilles heel is glaring. New England has zero underground natural gas storage. None. Not one facility. Across the rest of the country, operators stash gas in massive underground vaults, depleted oil fields, hollowed salt caverns, stockpiling fuel during low-demand summers and unleashing it during winter crunches. Texas has these reserves in abundance. The Midwest is loaded. The Gulf Coast is overflowing. New England stands completely empty-handed. When demand explodes, there is no cushion, no reserve. Every molecule of gas must arrive through pipelines in real time. Those pipelines, the Tennessee Gas Pipeline and Algonquin Gas Transmission, max out around 3.5 billion cubic feet per day combined. That sounds impressive until storms like Fern arrive and demand rockets far beyond that ceiling. Even on normal winter days, those lines are already redlining. When pipelines can't deliver, markets erupt. Prices detonate. At the Algonquin Citygate, the key pricing hub for Massachusetts, spot prices have surged to $44 per million BTUs. At the same moment, the national benchmark at Henry Hub in Louisiana sits near $6.21. NYMEX futures have exploded as well, up 70% since early January, crossing $6 for the first time in over a year, with single-day spikes nearing 18%. For New England, even $6 looks cheap compared to a $44 reality. This pattern repeats every winter. Every major cold snap turns New England into a price inferno. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation has warned for years that the region's grid teeters on collapse during deep freezes, dangerously dependent on gas supplies that can disappear exactly when they are needed most. The warning signs are everywhere. In the winter of 2022, Algonquin prices averaged $20.55, the highest since 2014. During the January 2018 bomb cyclone, gas shortages forced grid operators to fire up ancient oil-burning plants. Fuels that normally provide less than 0.5% of electricity suddenly supplied 20% of the region's power. Now the Department of Energy has issued an emergency waiver for ISO New England scrapping emissions rules and state regulations through the end of January. Power plants are authorized to run flat out to prevent blackouts. This is the same emergency lever pulled during the Texas crisis. The urgency is that severe. If this breakdown is hitting home, smash the subscribe button right now. This channel dives deep into energy crises, extreme weather, and the hidden forces shaping everyday life. Subscribe and hit the bell to stay locked in. Now the story crosses into outright insanity. Just 200 miles southwest of Boston sits the Marcellus Shale, one of the largest natural gas reserves on Earth, holding trillions upon trillions of cubic feet. Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Ohio extract enormous volumes daily, powering economies and keeping prices low. A drive from Boston to these fields takes less than 4 hours. Instead of piping that domestic abundance north, New England imports liquefied natural gas from overseas. The Everett LNG terminal, just outside Boston, has been operating since 1971. Owned by Distrigas, a subsidiary of French energy giant Engie, it can process up to 700 million cubic feet per day. During brutal winters, LNG supplies as much as 35% of the region's gas demand. Just yesterday, the tanker Accelerate Shenandoah docked carrying roughly 2 billion cubic feet of LNG. That cargo may have come from Trinidad, Nigeria, or even farther away. In past winters, shipments arrived from Russia's Yamal Peninsula, a $27 billion Arctic megaproject dominated by Russian firm Novatek. The irony is staggering. The United States leads the world in natural gas production, yet Boston buys fuel shipped across oceans. Gas is drilled abroad, chilled to -260 degrees Fahrenheit, loaded onto tankers, sailed thousands of miles, and reheated on arrival, while Pennsylvania's gas sits nearby and unused. The reason is policy paralysis. Pipeline projects linking New England to the Marcellus have been blocked repeatedly. These projects require approval from FERC and state environmental regulators. Time after time, they collapsed under opposition. The Northeast Energy Direct project was a $3.3 billion, 188-mile pipeline proposed by Kinder Morgan in 2014. Environmental opposition and grassroots protests stalled it. By 2016, the project was abandoned. Access Northeast, a $3 billion expansion of the Algonquin pipeline backed by Spectra Energy, National Grid, and Eversource, promised $1 billion in annual savings. Massachusetts' highest court rejected the funding structure in 2016. The project was suspended in 2017 and never revived. The Constitution Pipeline, stretching 124 miles from Pennsylvania into New England, cleared federal hurdles and began construction. New York denied water permits, killing the project in 2016 and permanently sealing its fate in 2020. Across the Northeast, 931 miles of pipeline projects remain stalled, including 448 miles in New York alone. The result leaves 15 million New Englanders exposed to global LNG markets, forced to compete with Europe and Asia for supply. Even domestic LNG rerouting is blocked by the Jones Act of 1920, which requires U.S.-built, U.S.-flagged, U.S. crude ships for transport between American ports. LNG tankers meeting those rules barely exist. Texas can export gas to Berlin or Tokyo. Shipping it to Boston violates federal law. The consequences ripple straight into electricity prices. Natural gas fuels roughly half of New England's power generation. When gas prices spike, electric bills explode. Massachusetts households already pay around 29 cents per kilowatt-hour, compared to the U.S. average of 17 cents. That's a 67% premium before storms even arrive. On January 1st, Eversource raised supply rates 13%. National Grid followed with a 5.5% increase. Add delivery charges, taxes, and fees, and the pain multiplies. Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine, and Vermont are all feeling the squeeze. Heating bills are brutal. Electric bills are crushing. Solutions remain stuck in decades-old gridlock. Meanwhile, Fern's damage stretches nationwide. Texas refineries are shutting down. Motiva's Port Arthur facility, the largest in the U.S., is idling units. Valero, Total Energies, and Marathon have followed suit. Goldman Sachs projects a 10% freeze-off in U.S. gas production. Crude output has fallen by up to 2 million barrels per day. North Dakota alone is down 7%. The Permian Basin is locked in historic cold. New England's crisis, however, predates the storm. Fern didn't create the problem. It exposed it. No gas storage. Capped pipelines. Dependence on foreign LNG. Billions in cancelled infrastructure. A polar vortex pushing a fragile system to collapse. $44 per million BTUs while the rest of America pays $6. The Marcellus Shale sits 200 miles away, untouched. As Fern blankets the Northeast in snow and sub-zero air, millions are paying a fortune just to stay warm. Next month's bills will deliver the knockout punch. I'll be tracking this nonstop as it unfolds. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay locked in for the unfiltered truth on storms, energy battles, and what comes next. Stay safe out there.